I like it.
Good evening, everyone. Today's Tuesday, May 26, 2026, and the time now is 6 p.m., and I will call to order this regular meeting of the Town of Mead Board of Trustees. In accordance with the town's remote participation and remote meeting policy adopted by the Board of Trustees on March 13th, 2023, by resolution number 21-R-2023, remote participation will be allowed. The meeting link has been provided on the town's website and designated posting place 24 hours prior to this meeting. I'd like to remind everyone present, both in person and virtually, of the town's general guidelines for public comment at open meetings and public hearings. The guidelines are available online and on the entry table. There are 2 public comment opportunities on the agenda for persons in attendance at Town Hall to address the board. The first is limited to items on the agenda, and the second public comment opportunity allows any subject, whether it is on the agenda or not, to be addressed. Melissa, roll call, please. Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Harris.
Here.
You only counts once.
Trustee Adams.
Here.
Trustee Cartwright. Trustee Crane. Trustee Hagan. Trustee Schranz.
Yes, here.
Mayor Whitlow, today is Tuesday, May 26, 2026, and you have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Please join me in a moment of silence for our fallen veterans. Thank you very much for your time. Please stand and join me with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag.
States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, next is review and approve agenda. I understand that the work session has been moved to June 29th. And are there any other changes to the agenda? Okay, hearing none, may I have a motion to approve the agenda as is?
I make a motion to approve the amended agenda as is. Second.
Your roll call, please, Melissa.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Mayor Whitlow.
Yes. Thank you very much. We have an agenda for this for this evening. Now we'll move on to the staff report by our town manager. Ma'am, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. Trustees, you have my report. Just a couple of things I'd like to update you on. The car show was a huge success this year. There were hundreds of people. We expanded it to downtown, truncating it Fairbairn so that we could provide access so that people could park in that public parking lot and people could get out of their apartments. So, but it seemed really successful. Everybody was happy and beautiful day. So we were glad about that. The ballot box has been installed, but if you see, there's like crime scene tape around it, and it's because they haven't finished some building permit issues, but there's going to be a camera there, of course, and there's a conduit buried, but they're working on the building permit issues. But it will be ready for the June election, which I don't know when. Do you know when the ballots come out, Melissa, for the primary?
I'm not quite sure. I was gonna say they've probably gone out. by
Okay.
now.
You've got, okay. Did it just come like, okay. Okay. Well, you can put it in the box. Yeah, it's there. Anyways, and then I just wanted to remind you, we did get a DOLA grant for $25,000 for our economic development strategic plan. Todd's working on the RFP. Our attorneys put together a really nice presentation for the e-bikes and scooters, but we wanted to delay this because particularly Trustee Cartwright really was interested in it. We like to have a full board when we do it. So, and then we just learned today that we got $600,000 from DOLA for our police facility. So we really happy because, as you will recall, they had 3 times the amount in funding as they had available. So doing the math, we were thinking we might get 300,000, but we ended up getting 600,000. So hats off to staff for a great presentation, and it'll really help our project. So, and then finally, just one thing that has come in a little bit of late, People think they're allowed to camp in our parks and they've come in for permits. Just so you know, there's no camping allowed in our parks. So we'll clarify that more, but it's kind of typical this time of year. And, we have Gopher Gulch, so we send people over there if they want to find a camping spot. And I think you can do tents there as well. They have their own tents, so just FYI. But that's all my additions to my report.
Thank you. Any questions or comments for Helen? Okay. Mayor Pro Tem Harris, do you have any questions or comments?
No.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll move on to our informational item tonight's Little Thompson Water District. And we'll invite Todd to introduce our guests tonight.
As you know, Little Thompson Water District, the primary provider water for properties within the town of Mead. They're a critical and long-term partner of the town. Not unlike many areas along the Front Range, water efficiency and conservation is critical. And to understand that and analyze it, has a direct impact on the town's growth moving forward, both near and long term. And so I'd like to introduce Joe Pitti with the district, who will talk about the recent efforts that they've undergone in the town of Mead. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. Joe Pitti, Little Thompson Water District. I'm a water resources specialist there. Here to talk to you today about a study we did on residential irrigation rates in Mead. Let's get right into it. So just to give you a brief overview of what I'm talking about here, I'll give you a quick executive summary just on the findings of the study, where we're going with it, and then just start from the beginning. Talk about the workshop we went to with Town of Mead way back in 2024, the grants that it's led to, and then ultimately this study that we conducted on irrigation rates in the Town of Mead. We'll get into a little bit about the study design, talk about which subdivisions we looked at, look at some graphs of data, and just how we interpret those graphs and how it informs our strategy moving forward. Awesome. And please feel free to interrupt me with any questions as I go along. I'll try to pause for questions as well. So here's just a quick executive summary. We were awarded a grant to analyze residential irrigation rate in 4 subdivisions in Mead. 2 of them are what we call like small lot subdivisions, and 2 of them are larger lot subdivisions. And we found that the best opportunity to support outdoor water conservation depends a lot on the lot size. In the larger lots, we're seeing that having programs to promote replacing landscape, like turf removal, rebating more water-wise plants instead of lawn, would probably have the biggest impact moving forward. And then for our small lots, we were seeing that we could see the biggest gains in water conservation, helping people improve their sprinkler systems, offering smart irrigation controllers, helping them program those controllers, do maintenance on their sprinklers, etc. So to begin at the beginning, we attended the Sonoran Institute Growing Water Smart workshop with Mead planners back in 2024. And the whole goal of that was to kind of get together with some facilitators and come up with some plans to help integrate land use and water planning for the future. So at the end of that workshop, we came up with a series of goals that we were intending to work towards. And the Sonoran Institute, which, just to give you a little context in the bottom left of the slide there, they're a nonprofit that works in the American West, and they're all about integrating land use and water planning for more resilient watersheds and communities. So they put on this workshop, help facilitate you to come up with an action plan, and then after that workshop, offer grant opportunities to help you move forward on some of the work you're planning. So we pursued one of those grants. It's called the Growing Water Smart Metrics Grant, funded by the Sonoran Institute. And what it constitutes is 150 hours worth of technical assistance from Brendel Group. It's just for context, they're a consultant based out of Fort Collins. Do a lot of great work in land use and water planning and kind of integrating the two. So the grant's for 150 hours worth of technical assistance from them. And the purpose of that grant is to track a land use and water planning metric from this Growing Water Smart Guidebook, which essentially outlines, a large list of metrics that, aimed to integrate land use and water planning. So all to say that, Brendel Group came in and helped us develop some of the data to support metrics we're interested in. So the metric we chose was irrigation rate. And just kind of the most general definition of that is it's the amount of water applied to irrigated lands, already accounting to rainfall. So it's just that supplemental water you need in addition to rainfall every year to help make sure, the plants on your lawn or in your garden are healthy. It's reported in gallons per square foot per year. And just to kind of give you an example to contextualize this, you'd say that Kentucky bluegrass requires an irrigation rate of 18 gallons per square foot per year. That means, in northern Colorado, in addition to kind of the regular rainfall we get, a square foot of Kentucky bluegrass requires an additional 18 gallons to maintain its health. So why irrigation rate? It's a really interesting measure of outdoor water use efficiency. We all know that Kentucky bluegrass is kind of the thirstiest sort of vegetation we see on people's residences. So, if we see people that have a higher irrigation rate than that 18 gallons per square foot, they're probably using a little more than they need to maintain the thirstiest kind of vegetation they have. So, if they're using over that 18 gallons per square foot, maybe they have a leak in their sprinklers, maybe their watering schedule is just not right. We know that there's kind of some ground to be gained in terms of water conservation. Conversely, if we see people who have irrigation rates below 18 gallons per square foot, then we know that they're doing really well in terms of water conservation. Maybe they've replaced some of their lawn. Maybe they're really on top of their sprinklers. So it's just a good metric to kind of see where people are at in terms of where their outdoor water conservation is. And it's also a really useful metric in terms of long-term planning. For Little Thompson Water District, it's been really helpful in evaluating the best kinds of conservation programs we can provide our customers. Because if someone has a good irrigation rate, say like 15 gallons per square foot, we know that they're not going to need that much more help with their sprinklers, right? They're already on top of their sprinkler system. So, maybe they wouldn't benefit as much from an irrigation audit or something along those lines as, say, someone with a really high irrigation rate of like 25 gallons per square foot. So it kind of helps us gauge where some of our customers are at and how we can best help them. Another important point here is when we were working with Town of Mead planners, they had mentioned that you all were working on your land use code update and specifically your landscaping code. And this seemed like a really good point of data to be able to provide you all to help you out with your planning. Yeah. Any questions at this point? Awesome. So just getting into kind of the numbers we sort of expect to be seeing with irrigation rates. Just some benchmarks here. And on the slide, I have the table for Fort Collins. This is from their land use code. They have a water budget categorized by hydrozones. And just for context, a hydrozone is a grouping of plants that have similar kind of irrigation requirements. All to say, just stepping through this table, like a very low hydrozone, those are plants that use, 0 to 3 gallons per square foot per year. So this is just like native shrubs that you'd see on the prairie, like yucca, rabbit brush at the bottom left there. Low hydrozone would be 8 gallons per square foot. Those are like your native kind of long grass options that people commonly use, like blue grama and buffalo grass. Moving on to the moderate hydrozone, that's 14 gallons per square foot per year. And that's getting into your tall fescue, kind of your more traditional alternative long grasses. And then kind of at the very top there, Kentucky bluegrass, 18 gallons per square foot, kind of the thirstiest thing we're seeing on people's landscapes. And so for this study, we're really just focusing on drawing comparisons against that 18 gallons per square foot. Like I mentioned, that's like kind of that high mark for, if people are using above that amount, there's probably some ground to gain in terms of water conservation. So getting into the study design, we tried to pick a diverse set of subdivisions in Mead to understand the impact of subdivision design on irrigation rate. We picked 50 sample lots per subdivision for each of those 4 subdivisions and looked at water use over a 6-year period. So to calculate irrigation rate, there's kind of those 2 components that you need in order to do the calculation. You need to understand your outdoor water use and your irrigated area for every lot. So to get your outdoor water use, we can look at people's water use in the wintertime, assume that they're not irrigating in December and January, and then compare that indoor use to their total use in the summertime and just say, hey, any amount above that indoor use that we're estimating, we're going to call that outdoor water use. So that's how we get that first component. And then the second component of the irrigated area, you can see here on the slide, we were able to get some really high resolution satellite imagery from the state of Colorado. And you can see those pink areas there. We had gone through and manually digitized, irrigated areas in all these lots. So that's kind of how you get that second component. And then you put those two together and that gets you your irrigation rate. So subdivisions, these are the 4 subdivisions we looked at. Again, we sampled 50 lots in each. And I apologize for the mistake here. I have year built listed on there. That's not correct. That's, I believe, the year we installed some of our AMI meters. So please ignore that. But you can see we have Founders Park, Sorrento, which are kind of our 2 smaller lots coming in at 0.2 acres average per lot. And then our 2 larger lot subdivisions, Mulligan Lake and Valeview, at 1.8 acres and 2.2 acres respectively. So we'll just step through each of these ones and kind of look at their characteristics. So this first one here, Founders Park, again, just to zoom in on that satellite imagery, you can see the irrigated area we delineated in that light red. Again, one of those small subdivision lots coming in at 0.2 acres per lot. And, you can see fairly traditional landscaping, right? Like more focused on lawns and trees, a lot of front lawns present as well. Compared to our next one here, which is Sorrento. Again, another one of those small lot subdivisions, 0.2 acres per lot. And I'd call this, more modern landscaping, right? More gravel, more shrubs, less lawn, less front lawns. Moving on to our large lot subdivisions. First, we're going to look at Mulligan Lake. This is 1.8 acres per lot. And again, back to that traditional landscaping of, trees, lawns, front yards. And kind of one interesting thing to note here is if you can kind of follow the lot lines with your eyes, you can see that a really large proportion of the lot we've colored as irrigated. And that's important to note relative to our second large lot subdivision, which is Valeview. Again, another large lot coming in at 2.2 acres per lot. Back to more modern landscaping, again, more gravel, more sand, more shrubs, less lawn. And you can see relative to Mulligan Lake, a lot less irrigated area given the lot size. So getting into some of our results, some of our findings from the calculations we did. This first graph shows average annual water use broken out by indoor and outdoor. And you can see kind of a legend for each of the bars at the top right there, kind of the total height of the bar is the combination of the gray area, which is the indoor use, and then the area that's colored in, which is the outdoor use. So on the y-axis there, you have the total water use in gallons for the year. And each of the bars represents a different subdivision. So Sorrento is in the dark blue, Founders Park is in the light blue, Valeview is in the green, and Mulligan Lake is in the orange. And you can see on the x-axis, we have all our years there from 2020 to 2025. So I guess some things to note here. The larger lots tend to use more water just across the board compared to the smaller lots. Another interesting thing to note here is that the indoor use, kind of for an average lot in each of the subdivisions, is actually relatively the same across all years and all subdivisions. So people are kind of consistently using the same amount of water indoors. And where a lot of the variability happens is in that outdoor water use. One last thing to note here, you'll see these light blue triangles in the dotted line. That's the secondary y-axis on the right there, and that's going to represent total annual precipitation, just taken out of Berthoud Weather Station close by. And you can see that, across the board, people in all subdivisions are generally responding to changes in precipitation. So when there's less precipitation, like you can see in 2020, people use more water, whereas in 2023, which was a pretty wet year, people use less water. Awesome. Next graph here is going to be the percent of total water use outdoors. So all this is saying is, for a given lot, their total water use over the year, what percentage of that is occurring outdoors? So that's what's represented on the y-axis. Again, on the x-axis, we have all our years. All the subdivisions are represented in the same color on the bars. And I've also included a couple benchmark values. 55%, you'll see in that darker gray line up top. That's what's reported in a report done by the CSU Extension Office back in 2014, estimating that, the average Front Range home uses about 55% of their water every year outdoors. And then that light gray bar was kind of a more recent report I was able to find. Fort Collins, their water efficiency plan update, they estimated for their customers they use about 40% of their water outdoors. So you can see here for all of our subdivisions, we're generally above that 40% mark and most of the time above that 55% mark. In fact, you can see for a lot of our large lot subdivisions across the years, they're upwards of 70% water use outdoors. And just speaking with our consultants, that's like kind of an anomaly, just in terms of, we have very large lots that we serve. So it's kind of a very high number to be seeing. All right, on to the main thing here. Average irrigation rate, gallons per square foot per year. That's what's shown on the y-axis here. And you can see the benchmark I included there is that 18 gallons per square foot for Kentucky bluegrass. And you can see that generally across all the years, across all the subdivisions, we're above that mark. Sorrento was very high in 2021 and 2022. We just think that's because they were bringing on new vegetation and, needed to water more those first couple of years. And you can kind of see their numbers stabilize a little bit. Really interesting trend here, probably not what you'd expect, that, the larger lots actually tend to have better irrigation rates across the board. Coming into the study, we would have thought that with large lots, right, you have so many more sprinklers to maintain, a much bigger system, so many zones that you'd expect less efficient irrigation, but really across the board, they're the most efficient irrigators that we've seen across the 4 subdivisions here. Any questions after looking at these graphs? Awesome. Then just to kind of pick apart some of these results and, kind of what our takeaways are from all this. So we found that it really kind of broke out, the comparisons worked out really nicely to kind of look at the small lot subdivisions together and look at the large lot subdivisions together. You can see that here. So first, we will take a look at the large lots. So these are some side-by-side graphs for Mulligan Lake and Vale View. You'll see these dark gray bars are your average irrigation water use, right? Like the average amount of water that was used outdoors every year for a given lot. And this orange line is your average irrigation rate. And so the axes on these graphs are identical. So feel free to kind of compare them across the two. I have a line right here, this green line at that 18 gallons per square foot, just for kind of easier visual comparison. But you can see generally for Mulligan Lake, those dark gray bars, there's much more dark gray bar above that green line compared to Vale View. The other interesting thing is that Mulligan Lake has lower irrigation rate relative to Vale View. So that orange line is closer to that green line, so to say. And so this is really interesting because Mulligan Lake is using more water more efficiently than Vale View, just from what we're seeing. So what's behind that? Just that difference in the total amount of irrigated area, right? Like looking back at those satellite images, Mulligan Lake, you can see, we ran the numbers, has twice the irrigated area as a lot in Vale View. and that leads to them using 100,000 more gallons per year despite having a better irrigation rate. So I'll just say, like, if someone in Mulligan Lakes, is interested in water conservation, wants to save on their water bill, what's the best opportunity to help them out? It's not that their sprinkler system needs any help, right? They're already very efficient irrigators. It's just that they're going to start to need to remove some of that turf, move to sort of lower water use vegetation, convert some of those sprinklers to drip lines. That's where they're going to see kind of the best bang for their buck if they want to save water outdoors. And Little Thompson already offers a couple programs to kind of help support that. We offer lawn replacement through Resource Central. We offer a number of rebates for water-wise plants and trees that are available to those residents. Compared to the small lot subdivisions, it's a whole different story. You can see these are the same kind of graphs here. The dark gray bar shows your outdoor water use. The orange line shows your irrigation rate again. And you can see, just compared to those large lots, we're using much less water outdoors here, but are irrigating far less efficiently. That average irrigation rate is, far above that 18 gallons per square foot benchmark. And here's kind of a similar graph that just shows the irrigated area as well. Really quite small compared to those large lots, but very, very high irrigation rates. So what does this tell us? It tells us that, if we want to support water conservation for people on these smaller lots, we just need to help them out with their sprinkler systems. Just because the irrigated area, is so small that, maybe the problem here could be a couple sprinklers or, one sprinkler zone, or just that their, irrigation controller is a little bit off. Could be leading to this really large effect in inefficient irrigation rates. And so we saw that the best opportunity here is just to help those homeowners improve their irrigation system efficiency. We offer a couple things already here. We have a slow the flow irrigation audit that's free to customers. We offer rebates on smart irrigation controllers, and we offer arbor bags just to help people irrigate their trees more efficiently. So where does this all get us? We are working on an update to our water efficiency plan, and we're incorporating the findings from this study into our future strategy. All to say that, even this year, it's definitely informed our choices in our programming. We've expanded pretty heavily into those slow the flow irrigation audits and are really trying to target more advertising to people in that Sorrento subdivision. Just to see, if kind of our theory around this is right, that, if people participate in these irrigation audits, we can really save them a lot of water outdoors. And so we got a couple other things going on. We were awarded a follow-up grant from Sonoran Institute and Brendel Group to help continue some of this work and integrate some of those findings into our water efficiency plan. We were awarded a third grant here with Water Now Alliance. They're another nonprofit that is really interested in water conservation. They're helping us write a lot of elements of our water efficiency plan as well. And then Sonoran Institute actually recently reached out to us about applying for the American Planning Association Growing Water Smart Honor Award. They think the work we've done here is super awesome. And yeah, they'd love to see that recognized. And that's all I have for you. Thank you.
Joe, thank you. This is awesome. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Questions or comments?
Oh, good. No,
Yeah.
very good.
Yeah. Mayor Pro Tem Harris, do you have any questions for Joe tonight?
I don't have any questions, but I did want to say that I did participate last year in the Resource Central program, and I pulled out 2,000 square feet of grass from my lot and got 4 lots of plants, and I additionally bought 3 more to add to it at a great value, I must say. Buying additional lots from them was a great value, and planted it all up last year. And when I went to pick them up, I kind of expected the plants to be small seedlings and did not have very high expectations. And I will say all of the plants were very healthy, very good size in good 4-inch pots. Again, I was expecting like tiny little 2.5 inch pots at best. I was really happy with what I got from them, and a vast majority of it made it through the winter. I babied it all winter and probably watered more than, I should have maybe even, but I babied it a lot over the winter to make sure that they all got through. I did lose some, but the vast majority of them made it, and I was super, super happy with what I got from that, and highly recommend that program. It was great.
Awesome. Super happy to hear that.
Thanks, Mayor Pro Tem Harris. Thank you for your comment. Joe, thank you for your presentation tonight, and for staff, for Amber and your staff for being here tonight. Really do appreciate the time. Even though there's 4 of us, we pass on to our community all that you guys do. And my husband and I always do the Eye on Water. So I think we need another push on that, because this hot summer is coming up. So we need to probably get that out on in more people are coming to Colorado, so into our area. So I would push that out very more so. So thank you very much, Joe, for being here with us tonight, and enjoy your ride home.
Thanks. Thank you as well.
All right. Thank you. All right. We'll move on to public comment. The board welcomes public comment at this time for any item on the agenda. We will also take comments on items not on the agenda during the second public comment, item number 9. Please remember that public comment is not intended to be a question and answer session. The board will listen to your comments and take them into consideration. All comments should be directed to the Board of Trustees and not to specific individuals. If you wish to speak during this first public comment period, please adhere to the town's general guidelines. Please start by stating your full name and address for the record. Each speaker will have 3 minutes to address the Board of Trustees. If you are representing a group, you will have 5 minutes. We ask that all speakers and audience members treat one another with respect and dignity, and let's ensure we maintain a welcoming environment and avoid any actions that could be distracting. Melissa, do we have anyone signed in for this public comment?
No, we don't, Mayor.
Thank you. Is there anyone here in the public that would like to speak to the Board of Trustees tonight? All right. Thank you very much. We'll move on to our consent agenda. The consent agenda contains items which are considered routine and are approved with one motion and vote. I want to recognize staff for putting together these items and the board for reviewing them ahead of tonight's meeting. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, please, Melissa.
Mayor Pro Tem Harris,
Yes.
Trustee Shranz.
Yes.
Trustee Adams,
Yes.
Mayor Whitlow.
Yes. Thank you very much. Motion carries for the consent agenda. Again, thank you very much, staff, for putting this for us tonight. Okay, this brings us to, we have no further other general business tonight. So this brings us to number 9, our second public comment period. We will follow the same guidelines previously stated. I will call on individuals in the order which they have signed in. Again, I asked all speakers and audience members to treat one another with respect and dignity. Melissa, is there anyone for this public comment?
No, Mayor.
Okay. Is there anyone here in the public that would like to speak on any item to the public, the Board of Trustees? All right, we'll move on to legislative wrap-up. And I'll turn the mic over to our town attorney.
Mayor Whitlow, I appreciate that. As you probably all know, the legislative session did conclude on May 13th. And I mentioned a couple of things at the last regular meeting, but I'm going to restate them just for your benefit really quickly. The town's bill that was run with the assistance of Mayor Whitlow, House Bill 26-1253, disconnection from statutory municipality, was passed, was already signed by the governor. Both lot splitting bills that were making their way through both houses of the legislature this year were both defeated. The one land use bill that I'd like to highlight that was passed was that Home Act. I think that this was a carryover bill from the 2025 legislative session, although a little bit watered down. Home Act it's an acronym. It stands for Housing Options Made Easier. So this was signed by Governor Polis in March, and it's aimed to make it easier for public schools, colleges, and universities and other groups to bypass certain components of local zoning regulations to build housing on their land. This bill adds a new Part 5 to Article 35 of Title 29. And starting in 2028, the law requires local governments with populations over 2,000 to allow qualifying organizations including public housing authorities and nonprofits that have a proven history of building new housing to build residential units on their land, regardless of whether the land is zoned for residential construction. The bill reflects a legislative determination that the housing shortage in Colorado is a matter of mixed statewide and local concern, and that certain local zoning regulations and discretionary approvals create barriers to housing affordability. Based on the potential erosion of local land use control, I think it's reasonable to assume that this bill might also receive a legal challenge similar to other challenges that are currently underway that were brought by some of the home rule communities, including Greenwood Village, aimed at some of the bills that were adopted during the 2025 legislative session. So we'll just have to adopt a wait and see approach there. A couple of other bills that were approved that I wanted to highlight for all of you this evening. House Bill 261009, starting on July 1 of 2027. Assuming the governor signs the bill, I don't believe he has signed this bill quite yet, and he is expected to veto approximately 20 to 30 pieces of legislation. But if this is signed by the governor, then law enforcement officers in Colorado will be required to conduct a lethality assessment when responding to domestic violence incidents. The Colorado AG's office or Attorney General's office will be charged with training officers on how to conduct the assessments, gather data, and issue an annual report on what the assessments show. House Bill 26, Senate Bill 26053 was a bipartisan bill that I wanted to highlight because it's one of these, good pieces of legislation. I think that had a very wide bipartisan support. This allows law enforcement officers, including other first responders, including firefighters and EMTs, to qualify or be eligible for CHAFA or Colorado Housing Finance Authority loans. This will become effective in August of this year, 90 days following the adjournment of the session. And there are some certain income restrictions, so certain police officers or firefighters may not qualify based upon income, and they may be phased out of eligibility. Senate Bill 26135 was passed during the session. Voters statewide will be asked in November to forego Tabor refunds in order for the foreseeable future, and allow the state to keep those monies in order to fund K through 12 education. So look for that on the November ballot. Again, this is a statewide issue that will be voted on. And then finally, I would just like to highlight that Senate Bill 26150 is changing the composition of the Regional Transportation District or RTD board. For many years, that board has had what I consider to be a fairly unwieldy board size. There's 15 elected separate directors for RTD. This bill is shrinking that from 15 elected board members to 5 elected board members. But it's interesting, the governor will also retain the ability to appoint 4 additional unelected members to that board. And one of those members has to be an individual that is appointed from a list of DRCOG nominees. So I think in the long term, that's probably going to allow RTD to be a little bit more nimble, and I think benefit from having some folks that really have some experience with transit-related issues, given that they'll be appointed by whoever is elected as our next governor. But happy to stand for any questions. But the session's over, and there really weren't a lot of big bills that were passed that would have a huge, fiscal impact, just due to the current budget crisis in the state.
Thank you, Marcus, very much. Questions for Marcus? Mayor Pro Tem Harris, do you have any questions or comments from Marcus's
No.
update? Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Next is elected official reports. I'll turn it over to the town trustees to report or bring up something. Okay.
I'm good. I'm good.
You're okay?
Yep.
Okay.
Well,
You agree?
I,
Go ahead.
I was going to make a report tonight on my visit to ICSC conference, but I'd like to belay that to the next meetings. I'd like to have the whole board to listen to it as well, so I can give everybody the same update at the same time.
Okay. All right. All right. So I just wanted to state that we have CML district meeting Thursday night. On Friday, we'll have Congressman Evans here to present us with $1 million for our County Road 7 work on that. So thank you, staff, for putting that together. The appropriations bill was signed last year by President Trump. We have a regular DRCOG meetings, work sessions, and then we have a North I-25 Funding Committee coming up, and then coffee with the mayor. So all that is happening before our next meeting. I do want to bring up one thing, and I just want to throw this out for a full board for next time that we're all together. But I do want to have maybe some input from Marcus's team about the AI centers that have been. There's lots of talk and trending about who is prohibiting them, moratoriums, banning them, based on water and electricity
Consumption.
yeah, that word. But I just wanted to, get that on the radar to see if there's maybe some movement on what we can expect, what's coming down the pike. I know Will County there's some talk over there, and I think it's really important that we get that out in the open to find out if who's been banning them, who's prohibiting, what's the consequences if they do come here, on where they're getting their water, and if there's any other statute limitations on this kind of things, or if what we can do to copycat something else would,
Okay.
yeah, so.
Absolutely. We
Yeah.
can look into that. And I'm almost positive that when I was reviewing the agenda for the upcoming CML conference in June, that they have a session on
They do.
AI centers. So
Yeah, that would be great. So I just want to put that in the public's eye that at least the Board of Trustees is thinking about, moving forward or not, on these centers, taking a lot of things that we don't have.
And energy.
Yes, yes. So anything else? Okay. All right. May I have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Roll call, please.
Mayor Pro Tem Harris,
Yes.
Trustee Adams,
Yes.
Trustee Shranz.
Yes.
Mayor Whitlow.
Yes, the May 2026, 2020
Easy for you to say.
regular meeting of the Board of Trustees is now adjourned at 6:42. Thank you very much. And Mayor Pro Tem Harris, thank you very much for joining us from Farland.